In 1562, wooden ships carrying French Protestants were sent across the wide Atlantic to establish a French foothold in the New World. After many weeks at sea, they arrived off the southern coast of what is now the United States at a place the Spanish have named La Florida.
Look, what comes? Can it be men like us? They came by night, sailing out of the nothingness beyond the sea, and with the coming of the day, they approached us. Strangers who looked like turtles in their shells, with headdresses and thundersticks with hair on their faces like the buffalo. Their chief, they call him Ribault, says they are the French.
This is the story of the French in Florida.
We are Timucuan. We welcome them, these French. We exchange gifts with them. Ribault parleys with our sacred chief. The chief's daughter proudly shows Ribault our fields and crops. We share food, feasting with these strangers. Little by little, we teach them our tongue, simple words they can understand. They show us their weapons that smoke and thunder. They admire their own bravery and grin like children at our curiosity. We show them our cunning with knives and arrows. Then they build a stone column with a symbol of their homelands. They cut down trees and make a strange lodge to honor their chief, King Charles, and name it Fort Caroline. Some of these French sail back into the nothingness across the sea with promises to return with more gifts. All was peaceful until those left behind begin to steal our food and demand gold. They quarrel among themselves and carry their thundersticks everywhere. A long time passes. The berries ripen and fall again and again before the French return.
It took 2 years, but French ships under Lieutenant René de Laudonnière returned to Florida. As an artist, I, Jacques Lemoine, was on board to map these lands, to sketch the natives and their curious ways. With so many wonders, I drew night and day till my hand ached. The river banks, deer and wild beasts, gold and what they call maize. I drew their ceremonies, the marriage of their chief. The monument to France still stood where Ribault had left it. The natives placed food and offerings at its base. The natives marveled at my drawings, and I gifted the chief with his portrait. They decorated their bodies with paint and feathers and little else. The men wore deerskin breechcloth. The women draped moss around their waist. Ah, it was paradise. But there were dangers too. Fierce alligators and enemy tribes. So many wonders to see, but time was short. For Ribault heard of Spanish ships coming back to claim the land. No, he shouted, the land is ours. It belongs to France. Laudonnière tried to warn him of terrible storms coming, but Ribault did not listen, and he set out regardless. I was left at Fort Caroline with Laudonnière and a few guards. But Laudonnière was right about the storms. A tempest crashed from the sky and flooded the land. Winds shattered trees. Thunder roared like cannon. Lightning strikes flared across the dark sky. But we thought we were safe inside the fort. The guards grew lax and left their posts to seek shelter. After all, no sane man would go out in such winds and rain. But the guards were wrong. before dawn, Spanish troops crashed our gates, catching us asleep. There was chaos. Musket firings, swords clashing, screams of the dying. Desperate, I fled the flames, passing two Spanish soldiers. They seemed not to see me. Mon Dieu, was I already a ghost? I hid in the swamps with other survivors. Praise God, one was Laudonnière. But my heart broke. All my sketches had burned in the fire. In the forest river we found a boat. We decided to try to make our way back to France. We almost starved at sea, until a ship rescued us. But France was still in turmoil because of religious war, so we sought refuge in England. In a rented attic, I recreated my sketches of Florida from memory. Later, I learned the same storm that assaulted our fort had also crashed down on Ribault's ships. Alas, Ribault and his men were shipwrecked, losing their food and gunpowder. Starving, most of the French were forced to surrender to Menendez. The bound Frenchmen were shuttled 10 men at a time across an inlet to the sand dunes. On the other side of the dunes, they were put to the sword by the Spanish, in the place that came to be known as Matanzas, or the place of slaughter.
Those French who escaped came to live among us and marry our women, or return to their king. Of Ribault's men, few lived to tell the tale. Florida was now again in Spanish hands.
Menendez had been ordered to drive out all interlopers from other nations as he saw fit. Although the French settlers, who originally sought a political foothold in the New World, have been all but forgotten, Matanzas remains as one of the oldest surviving European place names in the United States today. And in St. Augustine, Florida, America's oldest seaport, the Matanzas River has flowed for centuries as a main entrance to that historic city.